first couple of chords, and we're also going to understand how to read chord diagrams, okay? And you've probably already looked at this in your Zoom lesson, but we're just going to revise it. So if you open up to page 6 in your LCM handbook, and if you go down to the bottom right hand side of page 6 on your handbook, you'll see a little image or a little picture that looks a little bit like this. And this is telling us how to play our G major chord. Now chords really occur when you play more than one note at a time. Up until now we've just been playing one note at a time, but if I was to play a few chords, for example, so you'll see there that I was strumming all 6 strings and therefore playing obviously more than one note at the same time. So chords are great for strumming along and singing along to your favorite song. So as I've said, chords occur when you're playing more than one note at a time. So the first chord that we're going to learn today is our G chord. But first, before we get to that, we're going to understand what this chord diagram or this chord picture really means. So you'll see, if you take a look at this picture, at the top there you'll see a thick black line, okay? And this thick black line is really this part of my guitar. You see where I have sort of a white part of my guitar here, okay? It's quite thick, okay? It's called the nut. So that thick black line on your guitar diagram is basically this white part here, this nut, okay? And you'll see on your chord diagram as well that we have some lines that are running from top to bottom, okay? And if you were to count those lines, you'll count we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines that run from top to bottom. And if you were to count the strings on your guitar, you have 6 strings. So you've probably guessed that the 6 lines on our chord diagram that runs from top to bottom, they are meant to be the strings on our guitar. You'll also see as well that we have some lines running from left to right. Okay, these lines, you might have already guessed it, but these lines are the fret wires, these small strips of metal on our guitar. So really, if you were to look at your chord diagram, it's really just a picture of the first 3 frets of our guitar. Okay, now you'll see there that there is a number 3, and that number 3 is placed on the far right hand side. So it's on, so that number 3 is actually on string 1, okay, and it's in, if you count there, it's in the 3rd box down, okay? So let's just talk about that again. So it's on string number 1, and it's in the 3rd box down, or the 3rd fret down. So if I was to try and play this, okay, so I'm going to, as I said, let's remember what I just said. We're using string number 1, so that's string closest to the floor, and I'm in box or fret number 3, okay? And because I'm in using the 3rd fret, I'm using my 3rd finger, so that's my finger beside my pinky, okay? So what to try and do now is just try to find where that note is. So take your 3rd finger, give it a little wiggle if you want, put it down to make sure it's on string number 1 in the 3rd fret of your guitar, okay? So where you now have your finger is exactly where the number 3 is on your chord diagram or your chord picture. Now, what I said at the very beginning was that a chord is when you play more than one note at a time. So we're in actual fact, we're going to play 3 strings, okay? And we're going to play the bottom 3 strings, okay? So strings 1, 2, and 3. So the 3 strings that are closest to the floor, okay? So I'm going to take my thumb, and I'm going to pretend that my thumb is almost like a brush, and I'm going to brush down all 3 strings. Have a little go doing that yourself. Now your chord might sound a little unclear at the minute, might sound a little bit like this. Okay, and that's because you're maybe not pressing down hard enough on your strings. Remember just to press down a little bit harder using the tip of your finger and strum down the way, pretending your thumb is a brush. And you might want to just try and even do, if you're using a pick, to hold the pick you put your hold it between your thumb and your first finger, and again just pretend your pick is like a brush and strum down the way. And you're using the bottom 3 strings. And just remember as well that at step 1, all the chords that we are going to learn, you strum just the bottom 3 strings. Okay, so once you feel comfortable learning the G chord, we're going to take a look at the A minor chord in our next video.